How's it going?
Hi.
Hey, thanks so much for being on. Definitely excited to meet you and
Yeah,
excited to do this.
awesome. Thank you. I didn't know if you guys wanted audio, video, what exactly you wanted going on today.
Oh yeah, so it's going to be both. This is the main the main platform we've been using is YouTube, but we're about to get onto Spotify, Apple Podcasts, some of the other ones. So we will be using the audio as well. And I want to forewarn you. I have a 14-week-old at home, so she's a little fussy here and there, which is okay. I have a couple of folks that are going to come in at some point to check out our apartment because we're about to move, and life is always a series of transitions, right?
Yeah, no worries. I mean, if you need to move something, I mean, let me know. Like I can.
Yeah. No, I'm good. I
If it
just
gets
want to
crazy.
let you know there will be a little bit of background noise, but hopefully it'll go away a little soon. So
Yeah. How does it sound on my end? Because like for you, I'm getting a little bit of feedback, but it's
are you
okay.
really?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah, it sounds great on my end.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure why you're getting that, but that's okay. If it ends up being too much, let me know. We can kind of maybe disconnect and reconnect and see if it works better.
Okay.
So
Cool.
awesome. All right. Well, want to thank everybody for being here for another episode of Deadlifts, Dogs, and Dad Jokes. We have a really awesome, exciting guest here today, and she's badass strength coach, super strong, has really cool lifting videos. And my favorite actually is I love the U.S. flag, the huge American flag you have in your gym. By the way, I love the atmosphere already. Very, very patriotic and fun, and very obviously hardworking, which I love. So, but without further ado, Coach Karen, how's it going?
I'm great. How are you?
Oh, doing great. Super pumped to have you on. And there's a lot of really cool stuff that I want to talk with you about today. As far as like coaching and philosophies and stuff like that. So I guess we can start with kind of Strong First. I know you're involved with Strong First, as am I. I'm SFG. And my colleague Sean, who should be hopping on in the next couple of minutes, is actually you probably remember him, Sean Bryan. He did the bodyweight certification with you a couple of years ago. So
Yeah.
in Chicago, I believe. So
Awesome.
so he's super excited to have you on as well when he's able to get on. But yeah, so if you don't mind, just take me through kind of your journey. How'd you get involved with Strong First and kettlebells and bodyweight training?
Um, Well, I've pretty much been into fitness in some fashion, like my whole life. I was a athlete as
Mhm.
a kid, and did cheer and gymnastics and those types of things. And then fast forward to um, getting introduced to kettlebells. I had moved to from San Diego to DC, and I was practically living in the gym because I was exposed to the snow and the cold, and like I had never really dealt with that. So I spent all my time in the gym, and I met a gentleman who was doing kettlebells, and I was like, you know what, this is something new to me. Um, and I loved, staying and being a student and always learning something new. So that's basically what I did. I just was like, okay, I'm going to hire this guy to teach me this new modality, and fell in love with it. And at that time he was like, hey, you should go to this certification with me. And I wasn't sure what it was, but I was like, yeah, that sounds fun. Let's do this. So, I kind of joke when I tell this story at certification. It was like I got to the certification, and at that time, like I said, I was brand new to kettlebells, but I had been strength training and coaching for over 10 years,
Oh
but
yeah,
new to kettlebells, right?
yeah,
So I wasn't sure at that point, like, I mean, I was just going because I thought, oh, this will be fun. But I got there and it was like the heavens opened. I was like, these are my people. I felt like,
yeah.
I felt like I was home, and I was with this instant family and fell in love with it. And from that day on, I just never looked back. I went to any course, any workshop, anything that I saw that Pablo was teaching. It didn't matter where it was going on in the US, like I was there. And then I started taking all my students with me, and they were feeling that passion. And so then they all started getting certified. So it just kind of really fast tracked from there. I mean, it was just like falling in love with it and finding my place, and the rest is, kind of history. It's kind of where I'm
Yeah.
at now. And then of course later fast tracked into the body weight stuff just because of my background when Pablo was ready to have a body weight cert.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, and I'm with you there 100%, Karen. My SFG experience was amazing. I had a blast. I felt just like you did. I felt like, man, these are my people. This is fun. People are really excited about what they're doing. Really into it, and just it's isn't it amazing how infectious and exciting it is to be around people that really want to be there. I remember high school, middle school, college classes. And quite frankly, a lot of people I worked with at my previous gyms that really weren't that motivated to be there and weren't really there for, in my opinion, which were the right reasons, growth and getting better in community and serving clients and serving a greater purpose through strength. But being there was really cool. I had Coach Mike Perry was my team leader, and which shout out to you, Coach Perry. We're definitely thinking about you. Hopefully your treatment goes well. And but he's a tough old bastard. So I'm very confident that he's gonna
yeah, and an amazing coach. I mean, he's
very good coach. He blew me away.
We did body weight.
Yeah, he blew me away when he. It's actually funny. I was on Brett Jones' team originally, and then they crossed it out and they put me over to Team Perry. And when I shook hands with Brett the first time, I said, "Sir, why'd you fire me? Did you hear something about me on the street or?" But it was just, I think someone had dropped out and they had to balance the scales or whatever. But it was no, Mike's great. He's an awesome coach, and I'm actually just out of Boston, so I'm about a half hour away from him. So I get to see him sometimes, not super often, but he's pretty cool. So do you?
Yeah, I was just out there when everything. Mm-hmm. When everything opened back up after the crazy shutdown of the pandemic, we had transitioned our body weight cert because it was supposed to happen during when we were locked down. So we transitioned it, and then that was one of the first places I traveled again, and I did the body weight cert at his place. So it was really great working with him and getting to be out there and kind of get back to that normal of being around people and So it was good.
Yeah, it's and he has such a cool facility too. Skill of Strength is such a fun, just a cool kick-ass gym. Like I love obviously you and I are biased. We love kettlebells, so we love all the bells there. The pull-up bars that he has there and all that really long turf. It's plus UFC fighters train there, so you feel the energy in there when you go in. You're like, all right, I got to tighten up. I got to get my butt in gear. So
yeah, for sure.
Cool. So you're in Dallas now?
I am.
Awesome. That's really cool. We actually almost moved to Dallas a few years ago. My wife is doing her psychiatric residency now. And I think it was just UT, University of Texas. She interviewed there, and it was, really cool city. It was on the short list for sure. So.
Yeah, it's a great place. And you know what? It makes sense for me. I mean, I grew up in Texas, lived all over because my ex-husband was military. So we've kind of been all over the U.S. and or at least coast to coast, right? Not everywhere, but we transitioned back here after he retired, and it just makes sense with all the travel that I do that it's really easy to get in and out of here. Where before, when I was in Virginia Beach, that was the last place we were before we moved back, and it was so hard to get out of Norfolk. I mean, everything was a connection flight. Everything was more expensive. I would have I would get stuck on layovers. Where Dallas is just pretty easy to kind of get in and out whenever you want.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I had a feeling there was some kind of military in your background. I kind of get that vibe from people. So my mom was in the Army for almost 20 years. She retired, had a full career there and retired. My dad was a sailor, and both grandparents were military and all that stuff. So that's so I know you guys aren't married anymore, but definitely appreciate him for his service to our nation. So that's
yeah, no, it was a long. I mean, we were together. We met before he went in, and we divorced in the last year that he was retiring. And we're still, I mean, we live 5 minutes from each other. We still, obviously we have a daughter together and co-parent. And so we're still around each other. And it's, it was, I would say for the most part, a really good experience. I mean, military life is very different. But it kind of, kind of bringing back to the kettlebell thing, it kind of got me even more involved in the kettlebell world because I had gone to my first certification. And shortly after my level 1, I started preparing for my level 2, and I'd already signed up for it. Like a lot of people, it's like, oh, I'm so excited about this. Like, I want to go to the next level.
It's high. You want to keep chasing the dragon. I know.
Yeah. So in that process of that, training for the level 2, I found out that Pavel was coming to the base to work with the military. And so I reached out to him and I was like, hey, I went through your level 1. I'm here. Like, what do you need? Like, can I assist? I mean, I'll even just pick you up at the airport. Like, whatever you need. Like, I want to be involved in this.
That's awesome.
And so he had me assist, And then the next, time he came back, I was able to assist again. And at that point, he had promoted me to team leader. And so I'd kind of gotten to work with him in a different aspect than just being at an SFG, or back then was the RKC.
That's cool. Yeah, yeah. I was going to say you're one of the RKC OGs, which is really cool. So that's kind of neat. So when you first got involved, there was obviously the Russian Kettlebell Challenge at RKC,
right?
But then there wasn't a bodyweight component or a barbell component, correct? Was it just kettlebell?
Right. It was just level 1 and level 2 in the beginning. So my first cert was in '08, and when we had a bodyweight, the first bodyweight, it wasn't called the SFB. It was specialist of SBS. So the first one was specialist of bodyweight strength, and it was like I think we did one, maybe two workshops right before the transition.
That's cool.
And then it became, strong first bodyweight when we switched over. And at that point, that's when he asked if I wanted to start teaching it. So
yeah, man, that's exciting. Yeah, so you definitely a combination of right place at the right time, but also reaching out and serving, right? Asking, hey, how can I help you? How can I be of service? It's amazing how.
Absolutely.
That question, it's amazing where that can take you as far as a relationship, as far as again, building a community, and you never know what can happen when you ask that question, particularly to the right person, obviously someone who's obviously a visionary, like Pablo.
Yeah, absolutely. It was, and I definitely tell people, it was the right place, the right time. Like I reached out because I knew he was coming to my town. I had just opened up my gym at that time. The funny part of this is when I found out he was coming to the base, I had literally just had my grand opening. I was open maybe a week, and I didn't have any other trainers. Like it was brand new in the area. Yeah. So when I reached out and he's like, yeah, come help us, I had to put a note on the door, and it was like,
oh yeah,
closed for private event. And I went to the base for a couple of days and helped him. But yeah, I had completely closed the gym down right after I opened it, it was in the first week, but it was good timing. And if I hadn't done that, he wouldn't have seen how I handled myself in that setting. A lot of people come into that military setting, and you normally see two things, and you probably get this from having a family of military, and especially in special operations. Okay. People come into that setting and they either feel like they have to impress the guys, show them what they can do, right? Which is totally different than our code of conduct, right? Because we're talking about being a student of strength and also being humble, right? So it's not about showing off and what you can do, or there's the intimidation factor. People get like, I don't know what I need to do with these guys, And for me, it's just what I was around. My whole family is law enforcement. So then there was that aspect of, which is kind of like military. And then
they're cut from the same cloth for sure. Yeah. Very similar.
Yeah. And then being a spouse of military.
Too, right?
Right. Yeah. They transition from one to the other a lot of times. So I think being able to not come in and either be intimidated by it or be like, I have to beat these guys down and kind of show them what it was just come in and it was comfortable. It was like, I train these people all the time. So I think by seeing that and being in that right place at the right time, he saw how I handled that. And that's kind of what fast tracked me through leadership. And then I started assisting at the actual certs outside of, so I did assisting at military first.
Man, that's awesome. That had to be a really cool experience. Obviously those are, they're the best of the best. They're, especially when you're talking about special ops, those guys are, they're tough, very smart. And it's cool they make such interesting test subjects too. They're so unique compared to the normal, obviously your gem pop folks that most of us train. So I'll bet that was really cool. Yeah.
And we actually do train them a little bit differently.
Oh, I believe it. Yeah. Not to get too into detail, but what generally would you say, what would be the difference when you're looking at obviously special operators that have a very unique skill set and unique job requirement?
Well, what you have to think about with military is you're putting them in it's the same philosophy we use with other people. So that part's not different, but it's really driving home of the practice, not training, right? We're not going to beat them into the ground in their training, because what you have to know is, let's say these guys, they get deployed. And if they're used to training and beating themselves into the ground, well, what happens when they get called on a mission, right? They're too sore. They can't do. So you have to be able to train in a way that you're not, getting yourself to where you can't do your job. The job is a priority and the training is like I would need to be able to do my job. I need to be able to stay strong, but it's not a day to be like, okay, let me see where I can PR and then maybe have to be called to do something and be too sore to do your job.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's one of my favorite things about the, which I'm sure you've obviously read and listened to, just like I have, was the, oh God, I'm blanking on it now. What was Pavel's last book that he wrote? It was Quick and the Dead, The Quick and the Dead, when he talked about
Yes.
that philosophy of being training enough to get the stimulus, but also still having enough in the tank to actually do your job. So I think that's a really cool philosophy. Yeah, I read an article on, actually, I think it was a Strong First article. I can't remember who wrote it now, but they were talking about how the traditional military training model is actually very detrimental, particularly to the special operators. The excessive running and the really, really, really high volume training. I mean, of course, there's a time and place for everything, but they were talking about how the kettlebell and bodyweight stuff is definitely more bang for your buck as far as performance in real world scenarios. Not to say endurance.
Yeah, that might have. Right. Yeah. And here's the other thing is the mentality of these guys, like we don't need to beat them into the ground. They know how to do that, right? Like they know how to push themselves. They don't need the extra motivation. What they needed was a safe technique. They needed to be able to stay injury free and do their job. So it's not about, how hard can I push you and can I make you vomit? You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of trainers that still think that way. Like, oh, well, if I don't get my student to vomit or be sore, then I didn't give them a good workout, right? And that's totally contradictory of everything that we teach in Strong First.
I know,
so there's that aspect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that was the biggest shift for me when I really got into the Strong First stuff. Because just like you, I met a coach who got me involved with it in kettlebells and into Strong First. I read. I love doing the deep dive into stuff, so I read all the books from Pavel. Simple and Sinister, Enter the Kettlebell, all that stuff. I was super into it, and loved the concept of the minimal effective dose. Getting enough to get that training stimulus, and shifting the emphasis from that to that from how hard can I work and how hard can I kick my ass and still be able to crawl myself out of the gym. I thought that was I thought that was just a great paradigm shift for me. And it was, I physically have never felt better. Even now being 31, I'm reaching even better strength levels and better performance levels. And my body feels better than it did 10 years ago because I'm not beating the crap out of myself in the gym.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I wish that I knew about this in my 20s and early 30s. I think I got into it. Gosh, I was probably 31, 32 at the time.
Awesome.
And it changed everything about the way that I train. I mean, I was the person that was like, oh, I need an hour of cardio every day. And I need an hour of, I was that, don't get me bulky, can't lift heavy. And so it just was like a very big switch that was turned for me. And then I've never changed back. And I find that that's the thing that people have the hardest time when I program for them is they want to go all out all the time. Oh, yeah. And when I'm like reining them in, I'm like, okay, we're going to do 3 days a week. We're going to wave the load in your training. And the other days you're either going to do something like grease the groove or you're going to do nothing. And they're like, oh, what do you mean? Like, I can't just do 3 days a week. And I'm like, do you want to get strong? Like, what'd you hire me for?
Gains if I don't train 6 days a week.
Yeah. And then they're like, oh my God, how am I getting so much stronger, so much faster? And it's like easy. Yeah. It's like, I'm not, so that's like the biggest thing that people are kind of have that aha moment. But first it scares them. And they're like, oh, no, I need something every day.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And it's so funny. And what I love so much about Pavel and about Strong First and all the amazing coaches in Strong First that I have learned from over the years is, they're very research and evidence based, which is awesome. And what a lot of people don't understand is that, particularly if you have, say, the bro split, that 5 to 6 day bodybuilding routine that we've all at some point done, chest Monday, back Tuesday, shoulders, arms, whatever, legs, and all that stuff, and hitting the splits, once or twice a week. What people don't realize is while you're training different muscle groups, I mean, we can argue that isolation another day, but people don't realize that when you're lifting heavy every day, you're still frying your CNS. And I think that was when I learned about that was a light bulb moment where I thought, oh shit, I am way overtraining. Because if I'm heavy bench pressing, I'm heavy overhead pressing, I'm doing heavy weighted pull-ups, I'm doing heavy leg press and just maxing out all these movements, I'm just killing myself and just,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
getting nagging injuries, and even when I was young,
Yeah,
you're
but you're
supposed to be
staying under
independent.
recovered, right?
Exactly.
Like it's like, where do you have time when you're doing that much that often? Where do you have time to recover? So everyone like is staying in that under recovered state. And when you're under recovered, you're not, you're frying your nervous system. Then what else is there? Like the next step is injury for a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm lucky. I had a pretty bad back injury. And this, ironically, it was after kettlebells, but I was overdoing the kettlebells which you can do, I found out firsthand. So, but that I agree with you. That 3 day a week split has been perfect for me, especially having a baby girl now, and just not having as much free time as I once had. So it's just been great.
Well,
So you've been training with kettlebells for quite a while now, then, huh?
yeah, since 2007.
That's awesome, man. That's really cool. Back in 2007, I don't even think I knew what a kettlebell was. I think if you would have shown me one, I said, "What the heck is this thing?" So
Yeah, well, yeah, and when I first saw it and found out about it, I thought it was a gimmick. I was like, "Oh, this is some new fad, right?" Because I was pregnant at the time and working in California, and I saw this lady was opening up this new kettlebell studio, and I was like, "Oh, this is some new aerobics thing, right?"
right,
And
right.
I didn't jump in on it, and it wasn't until fast forward, 3 years later, I'm in. I had my daughter. I had been a stay-at-home mom, and then the military moved us to DC. And that's when I saw it again. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to check this thing out and see what this is about.
Yeah.
And that's, it's been my staple ever since.
Oh yeah, the same thing happened for me too. I remember the first time I saw someone perform a Turkish get up, and this was my first gym didn't have any kettlebells, so it was all just dumbbells, your typical dumbbells, couple barbells, and a squat rack, and all machines after that. Your typical kind of box corporate gym. And I remember the first time I saw someone doing a Turkish get up, I was watching them, and I didn't say it out loud because I respected the person, but I was just thinking, this is stupid. This looks like some stupid, CrossFit-y looking thing. I'm not doing this crap. This is dumb. And then that was back in probably 2013. Fast forward about 5 years, and up to now, it's like, oh, I love the Turkish get up. It's one of my favorite exercises. I'm all about it.
Yeah.
I'm doing Sinister training right now, and super pumped. It's just funny how things can change.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I remember when I opened my gym. So went to the certification, started training in '07, went in '08. And then right after I got back, I was supposed to open a gym with a gentleman who got me into kettlebells. And the
Oh,
military moved us again. So then we went from DC to Virginia Beach, and I was like, there's nothing like this down here. So I started just training out of my garage, got all my neighbors involved. And then when I had too many people to fit in the garage and it started, getting cold, I was like, you know what, I'm going to find a place. So I opened the first kettlebell gym in Virginia Beach in 2009.
that's
And everyone was like, what is this thing? And that's all it was. It was just flat floor, bunch of kettlebells, pull up bar, and that was it. And then later, obviously, as time went on and I was teaching a lot of people, I then started getting barbells and kind of going from there.
Oh, of course, yeah. I think for everyone listening and watching this, that's probably the best piece of advice to give anyone that's a coach and wants to go. Because I do think everyone should start at some kind of commercial gym and get your feet wet and get that experience and train a lot
Oh,
of.
absolutely.
But when they want to go out on their own and open up a studio or something, start small. Do the garage setup like you did. Get as many people as train as many people as you can. Grow out of that, and then go get the studio. I think a lot of people
Oh,
go into
absolutely.
like, oh, let me dump all this money into a studio, and they're not ready for that yet. They haven't grown out of their current space.
Oh,
So
absolutely. And here's like a quick tip too, if you are opening a business, I find that people, if it feels like it's growing fast, they're like, oh, I need another location or I need a bigger space, right?
yeah,
But what about supply and demand? What about putting yourself in a situation where there's the demand for that spot? So like my gym was small. I could fit 15, 20 people, but technically I was supposed to have about 10 in the
sure.
space. And then I had a loft area where kids could play.
Oh, that's
So,
perfect.
and you don't add, and I was doing more group, right? I was doing 5 to 10 people in the beginning and doing classes, but don't fill your schedule, right? That's the biggest piece of advice I can give people is don't go, I'm going to have 5 classes a day. Like start with 2 to 3 classes a day. And when those are full and there's a wait list and there's that demand, then add more. So I was able to work fewer hours. And then I had a program, kind of like Mind Body, where people would reserve their classes. There started to be the demand and the word got out. I didn't have to do any marketing. Like everything started growing because people started talking about it.
Word of
And
mouth
at the
is so
peak
big.
of being something new, I had about 250 members in this small little, space,
That's awesome.
and was doing about 30 classes a week and then a few private sessions. But I didn't do a lot of private because my daughter was still little. And so like I wanted time with her.
Of course.
And then my clients started loving it. And then some of them, wanted to get certified. And so they started helping when I started traveling and stuff with Pablo. So.
Oh, that's amazing. And that's even better, right? That's, quote unquote, hiring from within, right? People that that you trust and who have, obviously, if you're going to train with somebody, you have some similar philosophical values. And especially for those that stick around. So that's really cool. If everyone listening, if you're a coach, please take that advice. You don't, just like she said, let the demand increase before you decide to have a bunch of classes, and you can start small. The last year, with the pandemic and everything, the gyms shut down and we're open back up at still limited capacity up here in Massachusetts. I've got a few kettlebells in the trunk of my car, and I've been able to train some clients privately. We're doing, obviously the weather's nice now, so we can do outdoor. I'm essentially running a business with, the car, which I already have to have, and 3 kettlebells and a mat.
Right.
So it's you'd be surprised a little bit.
Yeah. And there's so much you can do with kettlebells. Like if you're starting out, don't go feel like you need to get 80 to 100 kettlebells. Like, yeah, that's what I had in my gym at the end. But
Sure.
What did I have in the beginning? I had a couple 12s, a couple 18s. 18 pounds, couple 12s, 16s, 20, 24s, right? And then as the demand happened with my neighbors and everybody started coming to the garage, then I started buying everything in pairs. But then there's so many things you can do. You line up a whole thing of kettlebells and you just have everyone cycle through, right? Like you go,
Exactly.
This bell's going to be this exercise. So you don't have to like put yourself in debt to be able to run a business.
Exactly.
But I totally agree with you that the in-person in a normal global gym is invaluable. Like it's an experience that everyone needs. And the downside is right now, pandemics fast forward everyone to online. But people were already wanting that, right? They're looking at trainers that have been doing this for years. I've been doing this 20 plus years. And they're like, oh, she travels, she gets to work from anywhere. She's online coaching. Like that's the cool, sexy stuff to do. But wait a minute, like where did that experience come from, right? We didn't just jump into that world of doing the video and coaching people this way. There's so much you can learn about being in person at a regular gym.
Absolutely.
And one thing that I learned the most, and I feel like helped me be very creative, is I was in a gym setting and you can have a plan, right? Like, hey, I'm going to train this person. This is the machines I'm going to use. And guess what? It doesn't happen, right? Because somebody's on that machine and you can't just sit around and wait and have an hour with
phone.
But yeah, so it causes you to look at the body and look at the equipment that you have available. And now with, kettlebells, it's very, you don't have to wait for machines and stuff like that. But there's just so much you can learn in a gym setting and make you a better coach, more different body types, like different goals. I've seen so many trainers try to push their goal on whoever that client is versus let me get you there with my philosophy for your goal, right? Like even people still come to me and they're like, hey, I want to go to the RKC. Okay, awesome. That's your goal. Like obviously I'd love for you to go strong first instead. But if your goal and you're hiring me to be your coach for that goal, then I'm going to train you for that goal, So you just have to really think about it's not what I want for them. It's what do you want? And then I'm going to steer you in the direction of to reaching that. If that makes sense. But the invaluable time is get in a gym, spend some time there. Even if it's not very long, like have that before you become an online coach.
Absolutely. I think those are 2 great points that were made there. And that's actually one of I took some notes before we signed on. And that one of my questions was going to be, what is your coaching kind of philosophy and value? You just mentioned it, serving the client, not pushing an agenda on somebody and, remembering that as the coach, we're here to serve the client or the athlete or the student. And that's, I love that. That's definitely my philosophy for coaching. And it's funny with Facebook and Instagram and all these social media platforms. Now, all of a sudden, there's all these fitness business experts online that are going to teach you how to build your 7-figure fitness business. And they look like they're maybe 19 or 20. It's like, have you actually coached a real human being? Probably not. And then I actually saw, I'm going to leave the name out because I want to be respectful, but there was someone whose ads have been popping up. And they said, you can start an online fitness business without any experience. And I'm going to teach you how to do it. So you can coach people online, even if you don't know how to coach people in person. It's like, No. That's, come on, man. There's way too many things wrong with with that.
Yes,
With that.
we won't go too far down that hole, but I will tell you that yes, in social media, there are all the expert coaches that are going to teach you to coach and how to run your business, but their business failed.
Yeah.
But now their new business is kicking off because they're an expert coach in coaching.
Yeah, exactly.
How to run your business.
And to be fair, there are some powerhouse coaches in the industry that have been doing it for, 10, 15, 20 years, and then they transition over to business coaching. That's a totally different story.
Absolutely.
There's some, I'll even mention one. Artemis, who I'm sure you know, from the Scrum Circle, she's a beast. She's a boss. I definitely love all of what she's doing. But there's for one of her, there's like 1,000 people, and you've gotten them the friend requests, the messages, and inbox me for details. And you're like, come on, man.
Yeah. You know what? Here's the best one while we're on this social media thing. It drives me crazy. I will get messages, DMs all the time. Like, hey, you could have a bigger following. Like, let me help you. And you click on them and they have like 200 followers. I'm like,
yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
How are you going to help me grow my following with your 200 followers? Like I just find it comical. So I just delete that stuff. Like I'm like, but yeah, there are great coaches out there. There are great coaches that have been trainers that are transitioned to business. Absolutely. But yeah, everybody's wanting to be in the online space and are worried about how many followers they have. And okay, it's great if you have a lot of followers, but are those followers bringing you business? Are those followers making you money? Or are those followers just followers, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, if you're running a business, you want those followers to be loyal people that are coming to your business, not just there to hype you up and be like, hey, I like what you're doing, and never transition over to your business.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, and you're absolutely right. I mean, as far as the algorithm, whatever the hell it even is concerned, and your engagement stuff, sure, that might help get you pushed out to more places to get seen. But yeah, it all comes down to your diehards, your true believers, the people that believe in what you're doing and what your values are, and will obviously support your business and want to coach with you. So yeah, I couldn't agree more. I've been on Instagram for I think a few years now, and I every day that goes by, I care less and less about the following count. I try to come to it from a place of just service. We're trying to serve our clients. We want to educate and have some fun. Hopefully, do a combination of those things. So.
Oh yeah, and you know what? I'm right there with you. I used to be early on, like I would post every day, right? Every day, couple times a day. I had that time to do that. And the busier I got, I was looking at it the other day and I was telling my training partner, because we're working on a new ebook that I should have launched already, but I got busy. So it's coming in the next couple weeks.
You're not alone.
And I'm like, man, I don't think I've posted other than stories. Like I haven't posted in like probably 10 days or more. And I'm like, I used to be so consistent and worried about, is that number growing? Right. But my focus is just different now. I have way more online clients, students that I'm training because of the pandemic. So when I was traveling a lot, I wouldn't take on a lot of clients because I didn't want to have to be canceling on them or moving them around every other week when I was traveling. And now traveling's picking back up, but I got a whole lot of new people when the pandemic happened. And so I'm having these hour online sessions that I wasn't really doing that much of before. So that's kind of become my focus, is just really giving them what they need. And then during a lot of the stuff during the pandemic, there was a huge cancel culture segment, right, that happened during that time frame.
Yeah.
And I dealt with that a little bit because I had a group that I used to be a part of that I'm not any longer, and basically tried to use me as their scapegoat and made up a lot of lies about me and publicly kind of tried to attack me. And so I just, I'm like, I'm diving into my clients and my business, and I'm not worried about this, what's being said and made up. But I did lose some following during that time. And that was a big transition for me. Is like, I don't need people that aren't loyal to me and my business. Like if they're going to listen to something that's false and be that quick cancel culture and try to bash and be negative, like that's not what I need. And I just kind of moved away from that type of person. And I'm not normally someone that's going to cancel a following. Like I don't understand that. If I follow you, I follow you. But when that happened, I was like, okay, this is the first time that I'm like, done, block. I'm not, I'm more of a, let's focus on the positive.
Yeah. Oh, and
So
exactly. And that's my big thing too. I think, and I think that's where a lot of people, not to turn this into too much of a political conversation or to be controversial, but I do think that that's one of the things that makes the free world is healthy discourse, right? We can disagree on things, we can pontificate, we can argue, right? There's a healthy way to argue and debate, and as long as it stays cordial and healthy and sometimes vibrant, which can be good. Passion can be a great thing.
yeah, for
That's
sure.
great, but once it reaches a level of toxicity, it's just not worth it. Like especially if that person they're following you, like they're not gonna, if they're just spewing toxic stuff at you, they're not giving you any value. They're probably not going to coach with you. So there's definitely no reason
Right.
to have them in your space. So
Yeah. One of the big ones that was kind of, and again, not to be, I'm normally not political at all, but this is a funny one because you mentioned the flag in the beginning, right? That you like that I have the American flag
yeah,
hanging.
I love it.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, that's just, I mean, what I've always done, And I had someone message me and they were like, I can't believe that you have American flag in your garage. Like almost like it was going to be like a rebel flag, right? Or something like
oh
that.
sure, right,
And I was
yeah,
like,
yeah,
and they weren't from the US. It was just somebody that was like, "Oh my god, like I can't believe what that means about you." And I said, "It means that I'm proud to be an American. Like it doesn't
yeah.
mean that I dislike anything else or I'm against anything else, but yeah, I was born and raised here and I'm proud of it and that's why it hangs there. It's there no other reason. So it's just funny that, that's kind of just different thought process
No,
during times of
I'm with you. I'm with you 1,000%, Karen. And again, I think there's a healthy balance, right? I think that's a big theme here in regards to this topic. Training, fitness, health, nutrition, and everything is balance, right? An extreme on one end or the other is not good. Like I think a healthy dose of pride in our country and in our way of life is good, is healthy. I think we can always acknowledge that there are things that we can work on. However, we're not the only nation that has stuff to work on, but we can leave that obviously for another day. I had this conversation with somebody I really respect, a really well respected colleague, and we were at one point discussing looking at a space, and you were talking about it, looking at it. It fell through, but it's pandemic, so it worked out for the best anyway. And I mentioned something. They had a Marine Corps flag up. And I said, "Oh, that's awesome, Semper Fi, man. We should," because the person's spouse was a Marine. And I said, "Oh, that's freaking cool, man. We should get Army, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard. Let's do it. And put the American flag up in the center or something." And then somebody mentioned, they said, "Oh, well, that might be a little bit too political." I said, "What are you talking about?" They said, "Well, some people will be offended by the U.S. flag." I'm like, "Oh, come on, man, come on. We're like, let's not go too far with this. I mean, that's
yeah.
I was just kind of like, okay, guys. Like you said, if it was a rebel flag or something, more incendiary, that would warrant the conversation. But I think
Right.
that was little. I think that's when the pendulum swings a little too far the other direction.
Yeah, and that's how I felt. I was like, look, if it offends you, I'm not here to offend anyone. I don't like confrontation and I am a very positive person and I want to help as many people as I can. But if you're going to get mad and not want to follow me because I have an American flag hanging from, the ceiling of my garage, like then I'm not your person.
Yeah,
Like that's not my tribe and there's going to be someone that you mesh with and there's enough out there for everyone. Like
oh,
I
of
don't,
course,
like it's
of course.
not like we're all in competition with each other. It's like we should all be able to learn from each other and grow. And even if we're in different schools, right? I mean, there's multiple kettlebell schools now
Oh,
and
sure.
other
Yeah,
things and CrossFits and whatever. And we should all be able to, still exist and support. And even if it's a little bit different philosophy, it doesn't mean that you should be like, I'm canceling you. You're no longer, you know, um, friends or whatever, just because of
right.
some transition in life that took you a different direction.
Sure. No, I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. And I think people are we're humans, right? We are very emotionally driven creatures. I'm not going to say I'm not also that way too. We say we're logical, but we're heavily emotionally driven creatures, and that's
Oh, of
okay.
course.
I think that's what makes us human. That is a very good thing. Again, a balance between the two is great too, right? Like trust your gut, but also trust data. I think that knee jerk reaction is not always warranted. And I think when it's the immediate reaction, no matter what happens, there's 7+ billion people on the planet. There might be some people that disagree with you. and that's okay. I just want to tell people it's okay. It's there's going to be
Yeah,
some that think a little differently than you, so it's it's okay. You're going to be okay.
absolutely.
So, I mean, if someone's spewing out hate speech or infringing upon someone's rights, obviously that's a different story, different conversation. Definitely have to address that. But I think showing a little bit of pride in where you live is a pretty far cry, if you're asking me. So,
Yeah,
but,
for sure.
yeah, actually, my wife laughs at me because I'm kind of a flag nerd. So one of the things I loved about your setup is you actually were displaying the flag correctly, and a lot of people don't understand that a lot of people don't display it correctly. They don't understand the rules of
Correct.
the way to display it. Obviously, when it's folded, that's very very sacred. It doesn't touch the ground. When you have national flags, those are level with each other, but state, county, company, whatever flags, those should always fly below U.S. flag. So my wife gets on. She laughs at me. I get so irritated when I see people that just don't know what they're doing. I'm like, come on, guys, we gotta.
Yeah, I'll
If
be
you're
like,
gonna if you're gonna
hey,
display it, please do it the right way.
turn your
Um,
flag the other way. That should
the-
be this way, not that way. And they're like, oh,
yeah, it's like, come on, man, you're killing me, Smalls. So, but no, I definitely love that stuff. So you're obviously huge into kettlebells, and you're really big on the bodyweight scene. I've seen some really cool posts about one arm push up and pull ups and all that kind of stuff. I guess so. I've talked with a couple coaches about pull ups. What would be kind of your like top 3 to top 5 tips on transitioning from, say, the bilateral push up into the one arm push up, particularly for someone that maybe isn't as strong in that position?
well, you know what? It's funny that you asked that because I've been typing a lot about this because my new ebook
Mhm.
is the main focus is a one arm push up, and then of course
Awesome.
lower body and core.
Yeah.
Um, so the big thing with the one arm is for strong first, anyways, we are not doing the Rocky style, right? We're not twisting the hips, twisting the shoulders.
Right.
And a lot of people it's kind of like I have to retrain people, some people, when they come to the certification, right? If they haven't seen what we do and how strict we are with our form, they'll be like, I got this. Look, I'm busting out these reps. And I was like, yes, but no. Like ours is, we're a moving plank. We want it to look as close to a regular push up
Mhm.
as we can. Now, will there be a little bit of shift and a twist?
Oh,
Yes.
of
But the
course.
hardest part for people to understand is you can shift your hips to the working side, okay? Especially for the one arm, one leg's a little bit different. You
Oh,
can
yeah.
shift your hips and be fine. But if you shift and pike, right, which is actually a hip hinge on the non working side, it'll cause
Mhm.
it to twist and be higher. That's the part that people don't understand. So I kind of try to give them cues of like, think about if your hips were headlights, they should point in the same direction for the duration,
Oh, I
right?
love
They
that. I'm writing that
shouldn't
down.
like
That's awesome.
they're pointing towards the floor versus one's pointing towards the floor and one's over here like shifted out to the side. So that's what I teach people. It's not about it's a shift, not a pike.
I love that. So full disclosure,
And
I'm going to
then
use that, but I'm going to quote you
yeah,
I'm going to cite you as a source. I think that's awesome.
thanks. And then same thing with the shoulders, right? The two things that happen the most when someone's training is they shrug the shoulder, right? Which means they're disconnecting in their lat,
Mhm.
or they pike the hip. And
Yeah.
then there's even more like finer details. For example, I try to get people to think we've always taught the push back in the feet, right? Push back, but there's also a push out. So
Oh, yeah.
if you, and I can't really show you this right now, but like if this was my heel, I'm going to, when I push back and out, by doing that and going on all of your toes versus on your big toe,
Mhm.
right? That push out causes like a chain reaction up to the glutes, right? It keeps the
Absolutely.
glutes engaged, which
Mhm.
keeps that pelvic tuck, and then you can shift. If you roll onto the big toe, the first thing that's going to happen is a lot of people will cave in. As
Yeah.
soon as you cave in and you have that leakage of tension, then you've lost tension in that glute, and then it's easier to pike when you get to that sticking point.
Absolutely.
So I guess that's a long way to say find an elevation that you can train perfect at, right? Like treat it like it is a tricep push up, both arms, both feet, not too wide, everything moving as a plank, right? One unit. Then make your way to the ground. Because if
Yeah.
you start on the ground and you build in compensations, that's just going to be exaggerated when you hit something hard. So
Absolutely.
I say start at the top. And I have a lot of people train a one arm push up, even if they don't have push ups on the ground, regular push
Oh,
ups,
really? Oh,
because the
cool.
unilateral work is going to expose asymmetries, right? So when you're
Yeah.
working one side, you can see, where does one side compensate? Is one side stronger? Is one side more mobile?
Mhm.
What's going on with the body? Then you fix that, right? You tear the exercise
Yeah.
apart, you find that missing link, piece it back together, and then you're going to have a more stable, safer, stronger movement.
So that's really interesting. That is not what I've been doing the last few years. I'm going to definitely play around with that because I definitely have used the incline. Like we have the plyo boxes at the gym. Well, had the plyo box at the gym. I was actually using, funny enough, the rear bumper of my car for elevated incline ones for clients. But I like that. I guess it makes sense because you even if you're just learning a squat, getting into say loaded squats, whether it be kettlebell, barbell, or dumbbells or whatever, we still work in split squats, lunges, step ups and stuff. So I guess that makes sense from a consistency standpoint of training, is you still want to get that unilateral work in. That's cool.
Yeah,
Man,
and
that's
it'll
cool.
fast track people for sure. Like I'll even have them do, even if it's something as simple, not easy, right? A one arm
Yeah.
push up at the wall. So I
Oh
start
yeah.
them on the wall and get them moving as one unit. And then when I get them back to the floor on both arms, it's going to fast track it. It's just like doing a heavy single leg deadlift. You get really strong with it. And then you go back to your, sumo or your
Oh yeah.
conventional deadlift and you've just PR'd it past what it was before.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah, and the body weight training in particular. So my coach Sean Bryan, who I think he hopped on at one point, but he had to leave. He was on his in the car, so he was
Yeah.
leaving from an appointment. But so he's my coach, and we did kettlebell SFG cert prep together, and he's now training me, helping me train for the Sinister Challenge. And but we went through a really cool body weight phase during the height of the pandemic when everything was shut down and outside, kind of Rocky style, not the Rocky technique with the push-ups, but
Right.
doing those. And but it was amazing, the carryover, that learning how to link and sync, how to generate tension, use the lats, squeeze the glutes, abs, and everything. My bilateral push-ups felt even stronger. My squat felt much better. Wedging into my deadlift, just everything. I can't even explain it. It just feels like that body weight training is that missing piece when done the right way. Because when I did the one push up, I made all those mistakes. I was, I was I shifted all the way over, rotated the body, shrugged the shoulder, twisted, lost the cylinder, and could muscle my way up on my dominant, but couldn't even muscle up on my non-dominant arm. But once I learned the technique, it actually got easier, and then I got to where I could do more reps, from the floor. So that was obviously
Absolutely.
exciting. So that's
Yeah, that's great. And it really is like one of the, excuse me, one of the best exercises for just carry over to any modality. Like it is my staple now, is like I always want to be able to do at least one, and I built up over time where I was doing sets of five, and then I had a setback with the surgery, and then I've come back. So it's a great skill, and I really think everyone should have it. And that's kind of why I'm doing this ebook now. I mean, I probably should have done it when the pandemic first happened and then the New Year's resolution. But what I did is I decided, you know what, I'm not going to jump in with the masses on the New Year's resolution, because there's going to be this hype and everybody's selling everything. And I want to catch everybody when that resolution has died down and they're like, now what? Right.
Yeah.
So now I'm coming out with the ebook. I've beta tested it. And my training partner, she was having trouble from some old injuries doing regular push-ups. And I was like, hey, beta test this program, then we get out. And she's doing a nutrition portion for it now. And in 12 weeks, she went from like a countertop to the ground doing a one-arm push-up.
That's
and
awesome.
She was struggling with regular push-ups before that. So it's 3 days a week. It's dialing everything in and helping people that don't have equipment or maybe just have decided they don't want to go back to the gym. They're just not, they don't feel comfortable with that yet. So you don't have to have equipment. You need a wall. You need a countertop, you need a chair, and the floor. I mean, that's it.
Oh yeah, and my coach and I, Sean, we were doing virtual sessions together, and during the shutdown, and we got creative. Luckily I didn't have to use the countertop for the push-ups at that point. We were doing, I could do like one or two from the floor. I wasn't hitting five like you, but we did use the couch. So I wanted to start getting into one leg push-ups, which are a totally different animal, man. I couldn't believe, I just mentally, I thought, man, I can do one arm. This won't be that hard. And then everything changed, obviously. But we used the couch, like with the cushion, took the cushion off, and we
Yeah.
played around with those elevation heights, and it was just a fun challenge. There's
Yeah.
nothing like I love snatching, I love swinging heavy deadlifts, but like when a client, particularly a female client, because a lot of females, as you know, they don't see themselves as strong physically, particularly with the
Hmm.
upper body. When a female client gets down and busts out an OAP, you're like, dude, that's badass. Like I have a couple that can do it, and it's when it
Yeah.
happens, the entire gym just stops and goes, oh shit, okay, she's legit. So it's
Yeah.
exciting when that happens. You're like, yeah, yeah, she's in the
Now,
back, it's like, yeah.
with the what you guys were doing, did you get your one arm, one leg?
I did.
Are
It
you
was
still working on it?
it was shaky, so it's I can oh man, it's been a while since I've tried it, but yeah, I was able to hit it, a lot of shifting, and very strong on the left side. The right side is just kind of very very would not pass. I don't think the left side would pass yet either, but it's getting there.
Yeah. Well, the reason I ask is one of the things that I think that people overlook, especially with the one arm, one leg, is they don't spend time in the one arm, one leg plank,
Oh yeah,
like
yeah.
building the stability,
Mhm.
because you need the stability, you need the balance, you need the stability. Because think about it, you're never, I mean, we're loading our whole body. Like it does a lot of pressing strength, right? As well as balance.
Big
So you'd
time.
never go to something like really heavy that you can't press
Mhm.
and just keep trying to press it and like without getting, you know what I'm saying? Like you need the
Right.
stability in that joint. Just
Oh
like
yeah.
you would want to do, let's go back to kettlebell, you would want to do a heavy overhead carry, right? Or every heavy overhead holds before you snatch a new bell that you've never snatched before, right? Because you're not going to snatch it up there in a ballistic state and not have the stability. I mean, people do it all the time, but you know what I'm saying? But
Sure.
they shouldn't. Like you want to
Mhm.
know that you can
Right.
stabilize that load once it's there. So it's the same thing with the push up. Like people think body weight easy. They don't think about, can my joint handle that load? Can my elbows? Can my shoulders? Um, so that's the thing is, and then taking different positions within the one arm, like where's your sticking point and making
Oh
that
yeah.
your new plank, not just straight arm plank, elbow plank, but like halfway down plank and hold
That's
that,
awesome.
doing isometric holds to really build strength in those positions so that you
That's
don't like
awesome.
face plant on the floor.
Well, I have to tell you, I have to give you a huge shout out. I wish Sean were here. He'll end up watching this later, but he obviously learned a lot from you because he implemented all of those tips into my training, and it helped a lot. So really getting into that plank position
Oh,
and
good.
finding a sticking point. What my big hang up with the one arm one leg was just actually the same mistake a lot of people make with a pull up is just trying to rush into it and just get up like oh shit, what do I do now? I would bring the foot up fast and I would start immediately wobbling. So then I would fight to restabilize my body, and then go into the rep. Exert a
Hmm.
lot of energy, obviously, to do that. So getting into that plank position, and the same thing you just said, using all the toes, like pushing back, but also driving out and really activating that glute. That was a huge game changer. And I would just
Yeah.
I got to where my setup was pretty good, but I would get to the bottom and just go, oh crap, I'm not going anywhere. So that we definitely did a bunch of holds kind of at the bottom there. And he got really really creative. We put some, like a little bit of weight on my back and had me do some negatives, and then take the weight off, have me try the concentric, and it's
That's
just
great. I love hearing that because I know there's a lot of people that they come in and they get to where they can do it, but then they never carry on and keep like really the coaching aspect. And that's what we try to do at the certification is like, it's great that you're strong and you can perform it. Right. And for the longest time, we only had that one test. And now we have multiple tests,
yeah.
but it's not just about that. Like, I want to know that you're taking everything in and you can relay that to your student and get them there. Right. Because it's not just
Absolutely.
about what you can do. And it sounds like he's done that. So that's,
Oh
I love hearing that happened and that there's that carryover because that's what
oh yeah.
we want. We want more and more instructors out there teaching people how amazing this body weight is and how it can, help you have PRs and other modalities if you choose to, do something different.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And Sean raved about you when he came back from that cert. He was just like he was blown away, and loved everything that you obviously taught him, and like I said, has used a bunch of it in our programs, which is awesome. Yeah, I think it's funny how you said earlier. A lot of people think about body weight as easy and simplistic training, and
Hmm.
it's just all you think is just like push ups, sit ups, and some squats, and squat jumps, whatever, and pull ups. Which obviously pull ups there's a lot more involved there, but there's these one arm push ups, one arm, one leg push ups, pistol squats, planks. You can progress the plank, progress the side plank. It's amazing how much you can do with just body weight training and still get some really damn
Right.
good results. So what?
Yeah. I think people think of, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. You're fine.
No, I was just going to say, I think people look at body weight and think of it as more um, like old school calisthenics, not how
Right.
we look at it as
Mhm.
pure strength, right? Our
Absolutely.
body weight is strength training, and you're using, we're teaching you how to use your body as a tool. So that's the point I always try to get across people is sign up and you'll see. I mean, that's what people say. Once they've gone through it, they're like, man, I should have done this sooner, or man, I should have done this before my level 2 and my press would have been
Yeah.
easier, or whatever. So anyways, I didn't mean to interrupt what your next
Oh,
question was.
oh no, no, no. That made me think of something that was perfectly timed. It's funny how I had that same thought initially. I thought, man, when I did my SFG, I was like, man, I wish I would have learned this stuff when I first learned coaching and everything. But then I kind of reached a point where I was like, man, I'm kind of glad everything happened the way it was because I can appreciate it even more
Hmm.
because I had those many years of learning, making mistakes, and the just learning and having my mind blown constantly that weekend and being able to take the awesome stuff I did learn from the first kind of quote unquote first phase of my career and then apply this new stuff in there with it as well and marry those concepts together and obviously hopefully become a better coach, serve my clients
Yeah.
better, and kind of take that Bruce Lee approach and borrow from different modalities, kind of take the best of everything. So obviously we had the pandemic. You're working on an ebook, which is awesome. I'm also working on one, and just like you, I'm very behind on my schedule. So don't feel bad. You're not alone. What has your training looked like as of late? What have you been working on as far as for your physical training?
You know what? It's funny that you ask. Right now, I'm dealing with a nagging injury that
Hmm.
isn't even like I don't even know how it happened. I've got something going on with my shoulder. Luckily, I still have another arm, so I can still demonstrate my one arm push up when I have
Yeah.
to teach it. And I always have great assistance. So whatever's going on right now, it has kind of delayed me. So, but let's aside from that, normally my training is treat it like a practice, right? Consistently train the things that I have to teach. That's where I'm at. It's like risk versus reward. I need to be good at the things that I have to teach. And sometimes I'll throw something else in, but I want to like always keep my baseline of strength
Yeah.
higher than what we have to test for any certification, right?
Oh, of course.
So what used to be my strength, now this is my strength. Now it's, strength is relative, right? Like my old strength, I just posted a flashback on Friday of when I did the Iron Maiden. Obviously, that strength was totally different. That was like very focused, but now it's like, let's
Yeah.
just keep it kind of in this space where you can
Mhm.
perform often with good form, teach other people. And so I don't have any like set, like, hey, I need a PR or anything right now. I do want to get my pull ups back really solid,
Mhm.
but this shoulder, we got to figure out what's going on with
Yeah.
this shoulder right now first. And yeah, just move well, move often, help as many
That's
people as
awesome.
I can. I mean, that's my thing.
Yeah, no, I think that's awesome, and again, that's obviously another huge paradigm shift with the strong first slash, formerly RKC approach was treat it like a practice. You're practicing skills. That's what I really loved with the Sinister training is I'm doing swings, I'm doing get ups, and I'm eventually you work yourself, of course, going heavier, and of course, strength is relative. The first 6 weeks of training after my daughter was born were just crap. Obviously, I had to cut volume,
Yeah.
weight, everything in half. Some days I just
Yeah.
some days I just did mobility, and that was my training day because I was just so shot. Um,
Yeah. Well, think about this. I mean, as you get this now as a parent, but for people that are not parents, they don't understand. I know a lot of trainers are like, well, just make it happen. Like, what do you mean you can't get your workout in? Right.
oh my god,
Well,
yeah,
your sleep is affected so
mhm,
much
yeah,
that you can't always train the same way. So it
right,
can't just be like, if it says do this today, do it. It's like, no, like you have to listen to your body and not
yeah,
in a lazy way, but like, what can your body give you today? Like, yeah, you could push, right. And try to hit that PR, try to hit what your workout says, but it's not necessarily going to be amazing for you in the long run. Like you
yeah,
really have to listen to your body, and the body doesn't understand the differences in the stress, right? Like stress
right.
is stress, workout is a stress, no sleep, like
Oh
kids,
yeah,
and nothing's ideal when you have a kid. So I ask people
yeah,
that. That's one of the first questions when someone calls me and they're like, "Hey, I want you to program for me." I ask them, I'm like, "Tell me what's ideal. If everything worked exactly as you wanted it to
right.
for the week, what would that look like for you as far as your training?" And they'll tell me. and I'll be like, okay, do you have kids? Right? What else do you have going on in your life? And
Yeah,
then I scale it. And everyone's like,
exactly.
but I can't, but I could train 5 days a week for, 2 hours. No,
Absolutely not. Yeah.
I'm going to scale you back. I'm going to show you how strong you can get with less. And then you're going to see how many other things in your life you still get to enjoy because you're not in that tunnel vision of thinking you have to do all this extra. Like you can
Yeah.
get more with less, or less is more. Yeah, saying.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. That's been my big thing is, I'm actually, so you were a stay-at-home mom for years. I'm actually a stay-at-home dad now. I decided to make that transition, and I've condensed my schedule, just like a lot of other coaches have
Hmm.
moved to a lot more online stuff. Um, and like you mentioned earlier, got some projects that we're late on that we're working on. We'll get them done sometime. But having a couple
Yeah.
kettlebells to train is perfect. We've got a little rug out here. I move the coffee table over. I get my swings and get ups in, and workouts are, training, sessions are, 30 to 45 minutes, sometimes maybe up to an hour, including mobility. But
Yeah.
I don't have to go to the gym. I can be home. I can be present with my daughter. And eventually, when she sleeps a little more consistently, I'll obviously be able to up the volume and weight. But I think that's a great tip. The
Yeah. Well,
first couple weeks, my
enjoy
body.
that time
Yeah.
because
Oh, of course. Yeah.
it goes so fast. Mine's 17 now, and so
Oh, wow.
it's a totally different phase. Starting to figure out that feeling of, oh my gosh, she's going to go off to college soon. Like it's going to just be me, and it's a weird feeling to, like, you look back to when they were babies and just love every phase. They're so different, and just enjoy the journey, just like we want to enjoy the journey in our training. But
Yeah.
there will definitely be phases of when you can do more and when you can do less, and
Yeah.
when you want to take a step back and be like, you know what, this needs to be the priority. They're at this phase that I need to give them more, so I'm going to dial my training back so that I don't miss out on stages that are really important.
Yeah, I think that's so. It's funny, Karen. That's usually what I close out with my guests that I have that are parents, and I typically will ask, like, what would be your parenting tip? And yours is even more interesting because you're a fitness professional. You were a stay-at-home mom for years, and so you and I have a lot in common, obviously, in that regard. And but I think that's a great takeaway. One thing I've tried to work on with myself is not, and with my daughter, is to not have too many expectations, and to try to treat each day as its own day. And
Hmm.
even within the day, there's phases of the day, right? Baby's going to be more calm, fussier at certain times, and it's going to fluctuate. And like you said, everything's a phase. That's been when I started not being as hard on myself, and I pumped the brakes a little bit,
Hmm.
and actually had to talk to my coach Sean about this. I'm like, dude, I got a kid. I love her, but it's a little bit harder to get all this stuff done now. We're gonna have to take the volume down a little bit, because Sean's like 26, no kids yet, and he can go pedal to the metal, 4 or 5 days a week right now. In a
Right.
few years, I feel like he and I will have some interesting debriefs.
Yeah. But you know
So,
what? That's a learning process too. Like if you look back to, like, it's a journey for us, right? Just like it's a journey with our kids and it's a journey with
absolutely.
fitness, but just a journey in your life. Like every decade is different. As long as you're open to learning and being a student forever, like there's so many things that you're going to learn and go, man, if I knew this back then, right? Like how many times when
Oh
we
yeah.
were kids did our parents go, oh, you just wait. And I catch myself doing it to my daughter. Just wait. You're not going to understand until you're older. But it's so true. They weren't trying to be like harsh to us or mean to us. It was like
Right.
they knew that 10 years down the road we were going to be like, oh yeah, okay, I should have done this differently or that differently.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing in parenting. It's the same thing in coaching. It's like you just have to be a student and understand and learn, along the way, that this journey is going to change and it's going to evolve into something different. And
Oh
as long
yeah.
as you're able to do that and not pigeonhole yourself into like, this is the only way and it's going to be like this forever and everybody should train this way, that's when you kind of get stuck, is you're like, okay, it's that narrow focus. Like, just know, one, there's nothing new in fitness, right? It's like, yeah, somebody can slap a big old red bow on it and call it their own and rename
Right.
it and be
Right.
like, oh, look at this thing I came up with. No, we've all been doing all this stuff for years.
Come on. Yeah. Come on.
It's
Yeah.
just maybe a little bit different spin on it.
Sure.
So just be open to, learning and growing, and think about the quality of the movement and just keep practicing and growing. But like it's all a journey, and it's just how you want to look at each phase.
That's awesome, Karen. I think that's one hell of a closer. I feel like you can drop the mic after that. It's so funny that you said don't pigeonhole yourself as a professional and be open to learning. That's the exact same words that Tony Gentilcore used a couple of weeks ago when we interviewed him on the podcast.
Oh, really?
That's lot of similarities with philosophies. And Tony's like obviously more of a barbell guy, and it's just cool. It's cool, bit different, background, but very similar philosophy.
I mean, I think it may seem that way, because like when people get you in that focus of like, oh, she's the kettlebell, right? Or she's the body weight. Mm-hmm. I think some people forget that I, started with kettlebells before I started teaching the body weight. So it's like, I don't want to be pigeonholed in as one or the other. But yeah, I mean, it's cool that I didn't even realize he said the same thing, but yeah, just keep growing and keep, trying new things and seeing what works for you and your clients and go from there.
Hell yeah. I love it. I think that's fantastic and a great takeaway for everyone, including myself, a good reminder for myself as I obviously continue with this next phase of life. So Karen, I first off want to thank you so much for being on this show. I absolutely loved our conversation and I love everything you're about. I love how you're obviously very confident in your abilities. You're very strong. You travel all over the country, and probably internationally as well, I'm sure at some points for the Strong First certifications, but you're still very humble. You were very quick to admit that, none of us are reinventing the wheel. Kettlebells have been around for centuries. We're just, we're hopefully keeping the trend alive, for hopefully, many, many more centuries and longer. Where can people find you online if they, want to reach out to you, obviously follow you on Instagram or maybe want to coach with you or get an ebook?
Probably the easiest way is through my website because there's links to all of the social media. So Perfect. It's just coachkarensmith.com. Okay. My shop is there. So any other ebooks I've done, this new one that's launching, we through my social media. So if you go to my Instagram, it's _coach_Karen_. There is a link in the bio to get on the wait list for the new ebook. But cool. Really everything's on my website. There's links for everything. There's also a template on there, so you can scroll down on the website and fill out a form saying, I want to coach, or I have these questions or whatever. It's all right there. And that's when I'm not traveling teaching certifications. The main thing I do is online coaching, or for other coaches, I do a lot of program design as well to like meet specific goals. So
that's awesome.
Kind of my main thing.
That's great. Yeah, I will link all of that below so everybody can find you if they want to reach out to you. And but no, I think that's awesome. I think you again, I love your philosophy on training and coaching, and I think you just have a great message for our guests. Is there anything else that you kind of want to?
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. No, I definitely.
No, I just appreciate it. I was honored that you reached out and wanted to have me online and answer your questions and get to know you more. So thank you for that. And, if there's ever anything you need, like definitely let me know.
Thank you. Yeah. And we will definitely have to do a part 2 because I know Sean is very upset that he wasn't able to be on and be with you. And it's actually my fault. I've mixed the weekends up. I thought this was Mother's Day weekend. So I texted my team and I said, I'm sorry guys, I can't do this day because it's Mother's Day. And then I looked and realized, oh crap, no, it's not. And then they rescheduled their schedules accordingly. And luckily I hadn't messaged you yet. So it ended up working out okay, but I'm, as you know, with a kid, everything is just chaos. You're trying to find some kind of order.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, enjoy that. And I mean, absolutely. If you guys want to do a round 2 and we can, dive in deeper to some of this bodyweight stuff or, whatever you guys want to chat about. Cause there's, like you said, there's nothing new in fitness, but there are cues, right? There's a lot of different cues.
Absolutely.
You kind of fill your tool bag with all these different cues and all these different drills and which one's going to work right for the right person. And it may just be something new, like us talking about the hips being headlights, right? Like, know how to do a one push up, but just, having a different wording to something sometimes it's just that aha moment for people. So we could definitely dive into lots more if you guys ever want to. So just, keep me posted and tell him I said hello. And
oh, I will. I love Dallas. So we're going to definitely have to come out to Dallas one day when we're, back to normal. And we definitely, come do a session with you, come learn some of this stuff in person with you, or maybe meet you at one of the certs in the future. So
yeah, for sure.
fun.
And hey, Dallas is open. So if you need to get
Yeah.
away from the not quite open to the open,
Yeah,
you can just
absolutely.
venture this way.
Oh man, the food music scene there is amazing. It's just I love Dallas, so it's freaking sweet. I do love Massachusetts. I got amazing friends and colleagues here, but whenever we get into the middle of winter and it's cold as hell up here, snow and everything, and people are posting videos in Texas and Florida, and I'm like, oh god.
Yeah, I don't
So
understand how you guys handle that. Like consistently, like we had a really bad snow here this year.
yeah,
And
I remember
I
that.
mean,
Right.
it shut everything down. I mean,
Yeah.
pipes bursting. Luckily, I'm on the same grid with the fire station, so I did not lose power.
Oh, good.
But I have
Yeah.
friends that are still out of their homes because they flooded. The pipes
Uh-huh.
burst, flooded their homes. Like our infrastructure is not, really made for that, like you
Yeah.
guys. So it shut us down. I mean, for a week, like everything. I was like, I don't even have anything to scrape the driveway. I'm out there with like a rake, those
Oh
like
yeah.
garden rakes. It's
Whatever
like
you.
straight on one side. I'm
Mhm.
like turning that upside down and trying to scrape
Oh yeah. Yeah.
ice off the driveway so that I can walk out without slipping. Like it's just different. So I don't know how you guys handle it. I was like
Very
going
different.
crazy in 1 week. So
But you have to. One thing I learned is that if you're driving to work, you got to get up early because you're gonna shovel. You're gonna shovel snow. That's a workout. So that's basically your first workout of the day. And then you got to obviously scrape and do all that stuff. So it's. I love it up here, but when my wife finishes her training, we're definitely going to be traveling south.
yeah.
Where the weather's a little bit warmer. So, well, Karen, I want to
Awesome.
thank you so much for being on the show. It was awesome. We'll definitely have you on again, and hopefully see you again soon.
Yes, thank you. Have a great weekend and thanks again for having me.
Thank you. You as well. Take care.
Okay.